Cimoooooooo! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2020 YugiTuber Grand Championship. So for this feature match, we have two of the up-and-coming YugiTubers, I would say. We have RevzCards, otherwise the, I guess, prodigal son of Nim Sealed Only series. So if you haven't already seen that, be sure to check that out. Going up against probably the competitor with the lowest sub count, I believe, being Head-to-Head Battles, bringing some of the most fun and interesting pack openings I've ever seen. They're so entertaining, such great people. Be sure to check them out as well. So let's go ahead and introduce our lovely co-commentator, the one and only Mr. Joseph Rothschild. How are you doing today, Mr. MBT?
I'm doing great, but I gotta give a shout out to Head-to-Head Battles. They actually come to my local quite frequently, and they are just the best people in the world. Extremely kind, super hype, and a lot of fun to be with.
And it's going to be really hype when we see this match, because for people who are just tuning into the Grand Championship, you are in the Cross-Banlist Round. Each round we are doing a different deck building stipulation, and for this round, each player was assigned a year at random and has to pick the best deck, or whatever deck they feel they want to see the most success with, and have to play against other players from other rounds. So Head-to-Head Battles is actually playing 2015 Yu-Gi-Oh! With, as you can see, Necros, so this is going to be an absolute cluster. And also, we have Revz on the year 2009, so I'm very curious to see what he is going to come up with here. But Head-to-Head Battle starting things off with the, typical Necros shenanigans, right? You know, we see Klausos getting discarded for a copy of Kaleidoscope. I believe this is when Jinlock was legal, so, like, we might be seeing Jinlock shenanigans.
Yeah.
It's gonna be bad.
It's gonna be bad. During this format in paper, I played UA because keeping track of Necros activations was too hard for my feeble brain to comprehend. So I'll do my best, but oh boy, this is a rough format to play, a rough deck to manage, and a very, very difficult one to pilot as well. Going for Trish turn one, but this Trish absolutely needs one in every zone.
Correct. This is, I don't want to say this is balanced Trish.
Balanced.
But, yeah, this is pretty much the defining card of 2015. Trishula, the Necros of Trishula specifically, just able to banish a card from both the graveyard, the field, and the hand, but it has to banish from all three for that effect to activate. But this was the card that people feared most. If you watched Necros Mirrors back in old 2015, it was very odd to see the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! The end board was to end with nothing on your field whatsoever, so that your opponent could not use Necros of Trishula during your turn, or during their turn. It was incredible to witness.
It's actually kind of beautiful how Trishula was such a powerful monster, and then Necros of Trishula was such a powerful monster, and now Trishula is again because it can make calamities. Time truly is a flat circle.
Yeah, it looks like we're taking a bit of a rewind here. To be fair, I want to say this. Head-to-Head Battles has recently started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Like within the relative recent time frame, and I don't think was really ever around when Necros existed, so he's pretty much just having to figure this stuff out within the short time span that he was assigned this year, and looks like he's actually just going to pass here on this Senju. That's a little bit disheartening, but I mean, I guess that's one of the unfortunate downsides of assigning years to different YugiTubers, is that who knows what can happen. They may have a year that they are completely unfamiliar with. I know there's some others that might be feeling the same sentiment, so we're gonna have to see how this goes. Revz is gonna start with a normal summon of Mystic Tomato, though, so I can't wait to see where this goes. 2009, Joseph, what stands out to you from that year?
Synchro Cat, maybe? I do think that Head-to-Head Battles' turn one board was never going to be, you know, game winning, you know? The cards that Necros can conceivably end on turn one is usually like Unicorn Pass, and that's about as good as it gets. Really, the strength of the deck comes from the activation of Trishula's effect. Looks like we're going for Diamond Dude and DDT, one of my favorite decks of all time. Let's see what we find.
I'm loving this. Mystic Tomato crashing with the Senju, both on 1400 attack. That means the Mystic Tomato will trigger because it was destroyed in battle. Summoning Destiny Hero Diamond Dude, whiffing on the Diamond Dude, unfortunately. Diamond Dude, a deck was centralized around this card entirely, known as Diamond Dude Turbo, just being able to get as many spell activations as humanly possible. Such a cool deck. I love the design. It's going to be a throwback for a lot of people who want to see a deck like this.
But obviously, I think this is the more competent build. The one that isn't on stuff like the Death Frog AoE spell, and instead is playing, malicious, good heroes, a lot of ways to synchro your opponent out, or to get your opponent out of the game, including extremely powerful cards like Trap Dust Shoot, and win through a slow advantage accumulation.
Yep, Trap Dust Shoot. This card's banned for a reason. It's kind of funny. A lot of people are comparing this card to a Pointer the Red Lotus in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And Trap Dust Shoot is banned for a reason. So, for people who don't know, you activate if your opponent has 4 or more cards in hand. You look at their hand, take a monster card, and return it to their deck. So, pretty much getting rid of a monster is pretty good, but most notably, the hand information is what you really want out of this here.
Wow, and DD Warrior Lady, GOAT format staple, returning in 2014.
Well, DD Warrior Lady was a card that people used to out Jinlocks, to be fair.
You had to do what you had to do.
Yeah, people were really digging in the tank to find that. I think Bullblader was another one. There were a few, but here we go. Preparation of Rites here from Head-to-Head Battles. This is pretty... There's a reason this card hit the ban list as well. You just get to not only add a level 7 or lower ritual from your deck to your hand, but also a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. So it was a +1 if you had setup. We're going to see Head-to-Head Battles get a copy of Necroz of Unicorn here, plus the Kaleidoscope that he had in the graveyard. And now we're going to use this effect of Kaleidoscope, send the Herald of the Arclight for the Unicorn. That will trigger the Arclight in graveyard because it was sent to the graveyard. We see Herald being used in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Not in this way whatsoever, but even back in 2015, Herald did have its niche.
Oh, yeah. The name of the game for these decks around this period were recursion. You know, you had Shadal able to summon Construct and then put back the Shadal fusion used to summon it. You had BA going through the Seer and Dante loop. And, of course, you have the ability to, with cards like Pre-Preparation of Rites, or Normal Preparation of Rites, excuse me, recur every single Necroz effect every single turn. And almost any deck in the format can't keep up with repeated Trishulas, repeated Unicorn summons, and repeated Herald activations.
Yeah, and it was just such an incredible amount of advantage you were able to accumulate while playing a deck like Necroz. And the deck really had tools for everything, right? I mean, Trishula was good for removal. Valk was incredible for just not dying, but also for Pot of Greed. Like, I mean, the deck just had so many tools at its disposal. It really was a deck you felt so in control of. And that's why so many players revere it as, like, one of the best formats in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, yeah. It's frustrating because post-Jinlock, I think the format, was a lot more fair. But pre-Jinlock is really when Necroz hit its stride as a deck that absolutely could do anything in the right hands.
And this is one of the most powerful cards from back in the day, being Vanity's Emptiness. Basically denying either player from special summoning, but typically very one-sided card, and for that reason was why it ultimately ended up on the ban list. This was a $30 common at one point because it was a short print out of an old set, and... yeah, I am just so happy to see this card never... if this card never sees the light of day, I'll be happy.
What are you talking about? This is completely fair. If a card is sent from your field to the graveyard, it gets destroyed. I mean, that could happen at any point.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how, with a balancing mechanism like that, how this card isn't still at 3. It's incredible. But Revz is going to go ahead and use Destiny Draw to draw a couple cards, and just set one and pass. Unfortunately, can't really do much under this emptiness, and really Head-to-Head Battles could just swing with this Unicorn for a couple turns and probably just take it. But these older decks do have some, let's say, non-modern tools to be able to maybe deal with something like Vanity's Emptiness. So, you know, back in the day, Vanity's Emptiness was pretty much almost a game over in most instances. But there we go! Mystical Space Typhoon in the main deck, being able to take out Vanities.
Doesn't get 2 for 1, but fine. You're completely happy to see that card go to the graveyard. As you were alluding to, Vanities did end the game, but so did Dark Arm Dragon. What a chonker!
Oh, man. So 3 Darks in graveyard, and this is where things are probably going to start to go south very quickly here. This was one of the most prominent, notorious, infamous tier 0 cards and formats of all time, and Dark Arm Dragon was the centerpiece of that. Just being able to have 3 Darks in your grave, you get to summon it to the field, you can banish a Dark to pop a monster. We're seeing a summon of Dark Grepper here just because we can, and right here, this already represents, what, 4,500 damage, so another monster summon to the field could just very well end this game.
Now, what's unfortunate is that Unicorn really is at its strongest against the decks of its era. You know, when it was negating the on-field effects of, say, Dante, it's hard to get over, of cards like Construct, when you're facing threats from 2009 that don't necessarily use the extra, sometimes Unicorn Pass feels absolutely worthless. And here comes the Tele, half of Teledad.
Yep, so Emergency Teleport gonna hit the field after a Banish of Malicious and Special Summon. Here comes Krebons now, and this is where this game is probably over. We're gonna sync Krebons as well as the Malicious for a Sync 8 of choice, being Stardust Dragon, but it really doesn't matter. This is enough to end the game, but there is a card that could potentially stop it.
Yeah, we'll see if it's in the hand. Of course, Valk is just Battle Fader, but it looks like Head-to-Head doesn't have it, and Stardust is gonna walk with it.
Yep, so it looks like Revz is gonna take game number 1 here, and just even showing the back row here too as well. We're gonna go straight into game 2. You know, just like that, some of these old cards are still alive and kicking. To be fair, you know, some of the inexperience from head-to-head battles, but that's perfectly justified if the deck is relatively new to you, and with the time constraint in having to learn it, it's perfectly understandable. But let's see if he can go ahead and come back from this. Starting with another prep. I mean, his hands are looking pretty strong here, but just setting one in pass after that. No, that can't be all you can do.
Yeah, that's frustrating. I mean, Nekroz really isn't a deck you can pick up and learn. It's just so absolutely mind-numbingly difficult to play. There was a reason I was on UA, but I think here we're going to get to see just how far Teledad can go if it's given time to set up. Normal summoning Kaiku is a great turn 1 play, way to prevent cards from being banished, and a way to banish the cards in the graveyard that would really give you trouble as they are recurred.
It's also a Dark, which helps feed into your Dark Arm Dragon. Here comes an E-Telly, so now we're going to get to see a Krebons come to the field. I believe...
Were there any 6s that you remember being powerful around this time?
I don't know. I mean, there might have been this one that had to get errated at one point, known as Goyo Guardian, but in this case, head-to-head battles doesn't have a monster, so it doesn't really matter too much. I think you'd be satisfied getting in the 3k damage here, and I guess you have to synchro with it if you don't want to lose the Krebons, because it's just going to get destroyed in the end phase via E-Telly, and there he is.
Let's go!
Goyo Guardian. Now, this does have an errata. It does require, it was generic back in the day. It did not require a Earth Tuner. Yeah, it was just an absurd card. This was like power creep at its finest during the Synchro era. This card was just incredible.
Oh, man. It was printed in the same set as Gaia Knight the Force of Earth, which was a 2600 vanilla 6-star. And I remember opening Gaia Knight and being like, why on earth would I play this when I can go into Goyo? Why waste packed space on this?
So, head-to-head battles passed his turn again. I am so curious to know what was actually in his hand. I think we'll sneak a peek once, if this game concludes for game 2 at the very least. But we'll see here. Goyo just swinging in for another 28, drawing a Clausulus off the top, so maybe he was just too heavy on the Nekroz monsters, because now we're going to see...
possible.
Yep, we're going to see a Kaleidoscope activation here. We do have the ability to Trish at this point, but it looks like we're just going to go for a Unicorn here instead. So Unicorn is going to come down. We trigger the Arclight. Arclight might be able to help fix the rest of our hand here. We're going to get a Brio, and we're going to see where this goes. This is starting to look a little bit better now.
If we fire the Brio to get a mirror, we do have the Clausulus in graveyard, so that's 9 for Trish. We'll be able to banish the Goyo, something like the Kaiku from the graveyard, and a card from the hand. Looks like we're going instead for a Nekroz of Decisive Armor to increase the attack of Unicorn by 1,000, and then attacking over the Goyo Guardian for just a little bit of damage. That's one way to get rid of it, but also a way to turn off your own Trishula.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. Again, maybe he just didn't have the access, although I do feel like the line was there. Again, like we said, he's been inexperienced with the deck, so that's understandable, but he did find a way to at least clear the Goyo Guardian. Maybe he has another Vanity's Emptiness that he can just set up here, and that could just maybe put a lock on the game, but not when Brain Control's around.
That's it, right? You gotta have Trish in hand in order to negate this, or you lose.
Yep, Trish being able to stop those targeting effects. Brain Control also pre-errata, mind you. Brain Control did not require the monster to be normal summoned or set. It was any monster. You could take it. I think it'd also be set as well. It didn't have to be face up, so I think that was another part of the errata. Mystical Space Tycoon for the Forbidden Chalice, but here comes the Valk that he desperately needed in that game 1, so he's going to protect himself from getting OTK'd using the effect of this Nekroz of Valkyris, and we might have something else here from Revz in this main phase 2. Gonna see if he does. he could have potentially tried to sync it off. It was a level 4 if he had like an E-Telly, but I guess he would have just maybe done that prior. But turn's going to end. Head-to-head battles is going to have his Unicorn back, and maybe he might be able to swing this, but maybe not just with swinging with that Unicorn.
Yeah, and, you know, oh, no.
Talk about the throwback. Gores, the emissary of darkness, making its appearance. Wow, talk about, oh my god. There's a card we haven't seen in a while.
When I talked to my therapist about when I learned the meaning of fear and when I stopped trusting people, Gores features prominently in those stories. I mean, this, back in the day, was such a monster. Just being able to be summoned when you take battle damage, a 2700 attack body comes with a token. Oh, wow.
Let me just say this. For anyone who's just started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Within the past few years and wonder why everyone always attacks with the lowest attack monster first, this is why.
A primal fear of this card coded into our DNA from 2009 formats.
There are very few cards that actually really shape the way people just play Yu-Gi-Oh! At its core, but Gores was in fact one of them. Again, like you said, 2700 body. You get to special summon a token that effectively has the stats of the monster, or excuse me, of the damage that you would take. So in this case, it would be 2300 from the Unicorn. So you get this big token, just an absolutely absurd card, especially back in 2009 specifically. This card was just the star of, you know, so many different decks.
All right, you better have the Decisive Armor right now.
I don't know if he will, because I'm pretty sure Decisive Armor was a one-of in these decks. We're going to switch that token to attack mode. Normal summon Stratos.
Oh, God.
This is going to be rough.
Oh, man.
Going to get a copy of Malicious here. If he has D-Draw to be able to pitch that Malicious, and he does, of course.
They always had it. They always had it. That was this format. They always had Gores. They always had D-Draw. They always had Stratos. They always milled right off of the Diamond Dude. I mean, there was just no reprieve.
God. The Dark Arm Dragon with the Smashing Ground follow-up, taking out the Unicorn, and this is beyond lethal unless Head-to-Head Battles has a second Valk in hand, which he does!
Yes! Oh, yes. Oh.
Now, the thing about this is, Head-to-Head Battles is not out of this. Trish could turn this around by itself.
Like, we know there is a Bryo in hand. If you go Bryo into Klaus into Mirror, that's it. That gets you the Trish. You can banish the Dad. You can walk over the Gores. You can threaten your opponent's board. They gotta go into a really powerful 6 Synchro. Let's see it.
We're gonna see. He draws for turn. Does he have it? Okay, pitching Brio.
Okay.
Step 1, getting a Valk. Okay, interesting. Is he just... Oh, no, he's just stalling for a turn.
No, that's not going to be able to do it.
Does he not have... Does he not have the stars?
No, I mean, you can use the Bryo to get the stars via the Kloss.
Oh,
wow.
I feel...
It could just be a lack of knowledge in this matchup. I mean, managing the costs of these Necroz monsters is not something that comes intuitively. They don't work the way you expect them to. We're going to go Valk into Valk, and it's got to be something crazy off the top for head-to-head.
Yeah, if he could find the line. I mean, like we said, Trish can just turn this around. He already has... Does he have the Trish in hand, he said in the chat?
No.
Not like this. No. Oh, he has the mirror.
Wait. That's
okay.
Mirror. We don't have the Kloss in Graveyard because we banished it for a Valk activation earlier. But 10. What can you make for 10?
I mean, was Decisive Armor a 10?
I feel like it was, but you wouldn't be playing 2.
Oh, no, he misplayed. It wasn't the right card. Oh, no, and it looks like he's just accepted defeat at this point. Just so unfortunate, but I guess in a massive upset, you could call it, Revs advancing with Teledad beating Necroz. So, again...
I mean, I'm never putting my money against Teledad.
I mean, again, it was definitely just an inexperience with the matchup here. Head-to-head battles did the best that they could with just... with the sheer small amount of time they had at their disposal to learn the deck. But it's unfortunate. But, I mean, wow, look at Revs' hand. That was stacked. Crush card, Monster Evil. Unbelievable. I mean, maybe he would have won that anyway. I don't know.
We should make it a rule in future rounds that you have to pay the monetary amount that your deck cost to keep specifically this deck out of the metagame.
Yeah, maybe. So, guys, that's going to wrap up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be nice to head-to-head battles just because, again, inexperienced with the matchup, so it was bound to happen at some point. But thank you guys so much for watching. We got plenty of other great matches coming, and we'll see you in the next match.